Hi everyone, you're joining me in the studio today, and I've also brought with me Adam.
Hello.
If you don't know, Adam's got quite a famous Deathwatch army. You've painted loads of Deathwatch for the past few years.
Yeah, I've painted quite a few. Thank you so much. Yeah.
He loves to paint Deathwatch, and they are absolutely amazing. You really push the boat out on all your models.
Mate.
You spend how long on each miniature?
A long time.
Yeah.
A long
Probably
time.
more time than I spend on an entire squad. So I like to paint kind of, not that many highlights, a bit of weathering, which is completely different to you. So you can see here what an Iron Hands model I've painted. I'm really happy with him. I really love him, but very different to how you paint.
Yeah, he's awesome though. I love it. He's very much in the environment. I love it.
Well, thank you very much. But I really want to learn how you paint your models.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
And obviously, specifically, how you paint your Deathwatch models. So today I've brought you on to teach me how you do that awesome black armor.
Oh, I can't wait to get started. Let's
I
do
think
it.
we should crack into it. Yeah, let's do it.
Right, so the first stage is we're going to get the Abaddon black and we're going to use that as a base coat to go over our undercoat.
Of course.
Yeah, so what I find is when painting black, you want to make sure that the whole area is the same kind of finish, and obviously the undercoat has a slightly different finish to Abaddon black, which is our base paint. So by doing this, we just kind of almost give ourselves a nice little protective save to go to.
Yeah, it's already so different to what I would do, because I like that little tiny difference in colour doesn't really bother me, so I would just completely ignore this stage and go right to the next one, so already really interesting.
All right, cool, man. So what we'll do, if you notice with me, I've actually made sure that this base layer is quite thin, because what I want to do is just, I want to make sure I don't add any unwanted texturing to it. So,
is this thin enough?
Yeah, that looks good. That looks good. So what you can see is I'm just getting this all over the model quite quickly. So just moving the paint around, making sure I'm not painting the same area repeatedly, because that will add texture to it later on.
I see, yes. And that's like the last thing you want when you're spending this long on a mini.
Yeah, so you can see I covered the entire area. So what I'll do now is I'll let the paint completely dry and then come back and do a second layer, because also if you're trying to paint over it while it's still wet, that adds texturing to it as well. So
of course, yes.
That's what we're looking to avoid. So
we've base coated, what's next?
So the next thing we need to do is do the recess shade. So for this, we're going to use Doomball Brown, and we're going to add roughly 4 dollops of Lahmian Medium to it to make it into a shade consistency. And we're going to start recess shading with that.
Awesome.
So I'm just going to get that on the palette.
4 dollops.
Yeah.
1, 2.
4 dollops of Lahmian Medium.
I've got 4 of the paint. Okay, well, in that case,
4
I need
to 1 ratio.
A few more. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I'm just going to use my other brush to handle loads of this.
Well, yeah, it's fine. So yeah, so if you look at my palette there, that's roughly the kind of consistency that you want, just like that. And then what I'm going to do is just clean off the brush, dry it off, just because I want to control it so the paint is just on the point of my brush, so just like that. And then I start doing the recesses. So what I like to start with is actually doing these recesses underneath the kneecap.
Okay.
It is arguably some of the hardest ones, but what I find is that it kind of gets my eye in and gets
you in the mood.
It gets me in the mood quite quickly. Yeah, I like it.
And I suppose you're using a layer paint rather than a shade paint because it's a bit brighter and punchier.
Yeah, well, yeah, you've nailed it there. It's 100%. So I'm using Doomball Brown for this, essentially for those reasons, and because I've found that it adds so much more to the final finish once you get the highlights on.
Yeah.
And also it has a matte. It's got more of a matte finish as well, where the shades sometimes can be like a little bit more shiny, which is absolutely awesome. It's good for that. But for me, when I'm doing it, I will kind of want the finish to be quite consistent, so that's why I'm using Doomball Brown.
I also suppose you paint single miniatures at a time.
Yeah.
And if you're painting a whole squad, an actual shade paint is much more appealing because you can just keep the same consistency all the time. Having to mix this for over and over and over again might be a bit annoying. But
yeah, 100%. And then also, just a nice tip here that might help you. So when doing recess shades like this, I don't know if you can see, but I'm always making sure I'm moving the model around, so I'm painting downwards towards myself.
Oh, okay.
So this helps because you kind of let gravity do the work, and it's much easier to control the paint when doing it.
So I tend to do that anyway, like paint towards myself where I can, but are you like going out of your way to paint towards yourself?
Yeah,
so like this one here, like it's sideways, I would normally just do it like that, but are you like bringing it down?
Yeah, so what
like
I'd do is I'd rotate the mini and actually you end up
okay.
holding the handle in all these weird, funky kind of ways. But what I find is it just gives me so much more brush control.
It's a bit easier.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really need to shade a black miniature, really, do you? Like
No, like, you don't at all, because obviously
shadows
it's black.
are black,
yeah,
right?
It does most of the work for you. 100%, but like the reason why I do it is because I have found that giving a brown shade, especially a punchy brown like this, like Doomball brown, is that when you get your highlights on, it actually gives a really cool kind of like vibrant finish to the entire miniature.
Sure.
And it makes the highlights pop out even more, and it's just, to me, more visually pleasing.
Yeah, no,
So,
I agree. I even used a very similar scheme for my black armor or dark steel armor.
Yeah.
You know, I think this orangey look really complements the actual colour itself and looks really nice.
Yeah, 100%.
I was expecting that recess shade to be quite tricky, if I'm honest, and I really surprised myself. It was actually quite easy. Obviously, I had to do a lot more tidying up than Adam did, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm happy to move on to the next stage. And I see there's 4 paints coming up. Are these all highlights, or?
Yeah. So the next things are going to be a highlight stage. So the first one we're going to use is Incubi Darkness, and the reason why we're using this one is that basically it's going to give us a nice break between Abaddon Black and the rest of the brighter highlights to go. So we're actually going to thin this one down a lot more than we will the other highlights.
Oh, okay.
So
cool.
I'm going to get that open and onto the palette. So don't worry with this about it being too thin of an edge highlight, because actually we kind of want this to be a little bit
Kind of subtle anyway.
yeah, subtle, but just a little bit wider than normal when you're doing a highlight.
Okay.
So I'm just going to thin that out a bit more. So you kind of want this kind of consistency here, maybe just a little bit more. So you can see what I'm doing here is using kind of like,
Is it just like a really chunky edge?
yeah, a
highlight?
really chunky edge, and just
Okay.
putting it down. So you can see that the paint actually isn't very opaque as well at all. So it's quite thin and translucent, and it helps to give that really nice kind of almost gradient from the black into the Incubi Darkness, and sets us up nicely for the rest of the stages.
Okay. Interesting.
So you want to, one of the more important aspects of this is just to try and make sure that your line is consistent.
Like size-wise.
Yeah, size-wise across all the edges. So as you can see, what I'm doing here is just maneuvering the model. So I'm always painting down towards myself.
Okay. And you're doing every edge.
Yeah, so this
Every
will be every edge.
So highlighting isn't normally my thing, but I actually think I did a really good job here. Doesn't look too different from Adam's, and even though there's 2-3 more highlights coming up, I'm actually quite excited going forward.
All right, cool. Ollie, we've got our first stage highlight complete. How did you find it?
Actually, all right, to be honest. I mean, it is like a very dark colour, so
Yeah.
I feel like it's quite forgiving. Like if I look here, I can't actually see anything.
Yeah, well, that's perfect. It's exactly what you want, because then that's going to set us up nicely for the next one. So speaking of that, our next highlight is going to be Thunderhawk Blue.
Okay.
And this is now when we're actually really going to start like proper edge highlighting here.
So that wasn't proper edge highlighting.
So we want this paint to be slightly more opaque, so don't thin it down as much.
Sure.
And again, we're going to be making our way around all of the armor panels and then just picking them out. So we're looking to paint within the line of our previous stage.
You don't want to cover it.
No, you don't want to cover it completely. But again, also making sure that it's nice and consistent line and the same kind of thickness throughout all of it.
Cool.
So like the first one, I'm probably going to start on the front panel, the big front panel.
The massive bit. At
Yeah.
the front. Yeah, I might do the same actually.
And then get myself into it from there.
Okay, so within the first line.
Yeah.
But obviously it has to be big enough, right? Because are we doing another one within this later, or?
Yeah, we will be actually. So
it can't be super small.
no, we don't want it to. So the next one after this will be a fine edge highlight. So that's when we'll start to go super small.
Cool.
So how are you finding highlighting, or edge highlighting in general?
Well, I'd like it's something I can do from time to time. I'm still struggling to imagine doing this over an entire Space Marine.
Yeah.
It's quite easy to see the bigger picture, which in this case is a leg. But if I was doing a whole Marine or a squad of Marines, knowing there's 3 more highlights coming up is quite daunting, but I'm finding it okay actually. So highlighting isn't normally my thing, but I actually think I did a really good job here. Doesn't look too different from Adam's, and even though there's 2-3 more highlights coming up, I'm actually quite excited going forward.
So the next paint we're doing is going to be Fenrisian Grey. And with this one, it's going to be a little bit different. So we want this paint to be a bit more opaque, so we're going to have a little bit less water in it when we're thinning it down, because this was going to help to make the highlight pop up. And also, we're looking to only paint the upper 3/4 of the panels.
Okay,
So
sure.
we're leaving the bottom quarter essentially unpainted, because that's going to kind of show where the light doesn't hit it. So that's going to be what we're trying to do here.
This is like proper unfamiliar territory for me, because like I very rarely go with more than 2 highlights on something.
Okay, cool.
Right, maybe I'll do some more for like a face or something.
Yeah.
But you know, like just the classic armor, yeah, very rare I do that. So this is cool.
So with the one, it becomes even more important now that we want to make sure that we are painting within the previous line, because we've spent so long getting these lines done. We don't want to then immediately paint over them. So what I would do, or what I try to do, is I'm going to try and angle my piece so it's about roughly 45 degrees when I'm doing it, and using the tip of the brush to paint down along the line. So it literally is edge highlighting. So it's using, letting the edge do the work.
Staying in between the lines is really tricky, but the effects are starting to come together. I mean, almost instantly. It looks really cool. It's absolutely wild that Adam does this on an entire Space Marine.
Okay, that's that stage done. How did you find it?
Yeah, good, very good. It was quite tricky, I won't lie. I can see like why, you know, it's necessary. It really comes together. It starts to bring the whole thing to life, and actually makes it look like you've put a lot of time into it, which I think is really cool. But yeah, just the one paint left, is it?
Yeah, just the one paint left to go. Yeah, almost there. So our last paint that we're going to use is Blue Horror. And what we're going to use this for is a spot highlight. So what we want to do is put that where you ever find 2 edges meet. So just on the corners, and you're going to use that just to make the whole thing just pop out a little bit more. So when doing this, again, you want it to be slightly more opaque, so don't thin it out as much. You don't really want to thin out Blue Horror that much anyway, because it's quite thin already. And then what I do is try and use very little pressure, and just the tip of the...
Where 2 lines meet.
Yeah, just the tip of the brush, so you're controlling the application. So what I'll do here is
how much you actually want. Yeah,
on a corner, just like this, so you can see I haven't really got that much on my brush at all.
Not a lot there.
And then just very, very lightly.
Okay.
Just on the corner. And that just makes the whole thing just pop out nicely.
Cool. Hey, do you want to put this on any of like the other raised bits, like the very top of this arch, or are you just doing the corner?
So yeah, I was going to talk to you about that. So there are a couple of things you can do. So obviously we're using this as a dot highlight to pick out edges, but you can, if you wanted to push it a bit more, so whenever you have a curved surface like that. So there's a couple of ways you can approach doing a curved surface. One of them we haven't done here is you do like a reflexive ball,
like in the middle. I've seen
ball
light,
like that. But what you can do as well is find the point. So on this leg here, I'd say the top bit there is probably where the light's hitting it the most. You find that point there, and you can just, instead of doing a dot, you just kind of do like a really, really thin line.
Okay.
And you just kind of bring that bit into focus as well with it.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's it. So you can do that with some of the circles if you wanted to.
And I think we're finally done, unless there's like another mystery.
No more highlights to go. You know, we're done. How did you find it, Ollie? You enjoy it?
Yeah, really good. You want to try it?
Yeah, let me see it.
Yeah, really good. I really enjoyed it. It's not how I would paint normally, so it was cool to kind of push the boat out, challenge myself. Actually, I would like to try painting more like this, you know, in the future. Maybe not necessarily
cool
Death Watch or whatever, but just try adding more paints into my recipes.
Well, mate, what I'd say is for someone first time doing this many like edge highlights, because you're saying you don't normally do that, it's really good, man. You can definitely see all the lines happening. I can see Incubi darkness straight through to Fenrisian. So that's what you want, really. Yeah. So that's great, man. So good.
Yeah, maybe one day I'll get a bit more finite with the lines, but yeah, really enjoying it. Yeah. Really proud of what I've done, and excited to do some more in the future.
Great. Do you think you might take the process into like maybe doing some of your heroes or your leader characters? Do you think?
Definitely. So I want to add more colours into my highlights now going forward, and I think I'll start doing that on my characters and my heroes.
It's always a good place to start because it's it's not quite as kind of all-encompassing as doing it as your whole army. Yeah,
definitely. So yeah, I'll keep that in mind going forward. I'm really excited to add more paints into my life.
Cool.
Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed too. Maybe you learned a few things as well, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.